This is Sports 225. Well, we start this Sports 225 with Corey Wilson of BREC, who, as you know from just talking to him anytime he comes on the show, but if you follow the news, one of the busiest people we know. In fact, he's got me up. You're probably watching this on your view, Friday night or one of the evenings. He's got me up taping this at 8:00 in the morning. Now, not that I'm not up now, Corey, but that is just an indication of how crazy your days are.
Glad we were able to squeeze it in.
So you went to DC, you got to do, a little schmoozing and some brecking. Tell me about that trip.
Yeah, so well, I was about to say, as most people know, but maybe most people don't know that BREC 75, 76 years ago was created by the state legislators. And so as a result, there's not much you can change at BREC without going through some sort of state legislation. And so, as we learned in 2021 with Senate Bill 205, yeah, it's important for us to remain connected with legislators, not only here in the East Baton Rouge Parish area, but all across the state. We have capital outlay requests that comes across all of their desks. And so it's important that we stay on their radar, be able to make ourselves accessible and available to respond and answer any questions we had. And so it was fun to be able to do that in a social setting. So
Mardi Gras in DC, right? I mean, basically, but you
yes.
Also, but you coordinated that with a lot of meetings and stuff.
Yes. In fact, I participated in a roundtable talk with East Baton Rouge Schools Superintendent Dr. Cito Narcisse. We talked about parks and schools and partnerships. And so, yeah, there were many opportunities to participate, to share information, to learn information. There were a lot of different sessions about important things happening across the state. So very, very informative, very productive trip.
Yeah, that was my next question. So you took me right into it, that you're on that panel talking about, the growth in association with the schools. So that was good. We got to ship you out like 1,000 miles to get you to do this stuff, right? Okay, so,
Right.
Yeah, right. Also this week you relaunched a new BREC.org website from our friends at Covalent, who also happen to do volleyballmag.com, my website, and
Okay.
it looked really cool. It's very navigable, sharp, pretty. I know doing a new website is sort of like renovating your house. It makes you want to strangle yourself sometimes. It's painstaking, but it came out really pretty.
Thank you. That was a long time coming. As most projects we have, well, whether it's a website or whether it's renovating a park, it was a result of a lot of community input about what they want to see on the website, how to make it easier for them. A lot of information we had based on where people was clicking and what they were clicking on. And so, yeah, we were able to update it and hopefully make it a lot more user friendly for the public. And so that was the ultimate objective.
That's good. Let's finish this first segment with this. Back in November, you won a whole bunch of awards. Give you a chance to beat your chest a little bit, but you got to like that.
Yeah, and so in November, we got a chance to go up to Monroe, where the Louisiana Recreation and Park Association held its annual conference. And so we had park agencies from all across the state participating in that. And we were fortunate to win 5 or 6 awards for projects that we've done. They recognized us for winning the National Gold Medal Award, which we brought home last September. And so that was exciting as well. But several other projects that we have going on won awards. We won awards for partnerships with Front Yard Bikes and several other things that I don't have the list in front of me. But yeah, it was great. It's always great when we're able to be recognized for the hard work that staff does.
What's more fun, going to DC for that or going up to Monroe? No, you better not answer that question.
It's a coin flip. It's a coin flip.
He's Corey Wilson from BREC. I'm Lee Feinswag. When we get back on Sports 225, we'll talk about BREC's next venture into the next decade. I think it's a 10-year plan. We'll be right back.
Congratulations, East Baton Rouge. You did it. You topped every big city in the country. You envisioned an ambitious reinvention of our park system. And we, as a community, embarked on a multi-year effort to reimagine our parks and facilities. And all that work didn't go unnoticed. You imagined, we delivered. Gold. BREC, your #1 park system in the nation.
Back on Sports 225 with Corey Wilson of BREC. Later in the show, Jimmy Kleinpeter, who covers the phenomena that has become LSU women's basketball, and we'll talk some hoops with him later. But Corey, I referenced as we wrapped up the last segment, it's time for a new 10-year plan. Can I selfishly ask, does that include a really good outdoor lap swimming pool?
It could. Yeah. And so, as I mentioned previously in the last segment, when we talked about our website, it'll involve a lot of community input. And so if we get enough community input requesting a pool that, Olympic size and lap pool and those sort of things, because ultimately we're handling or trying to be stewards of the public's tax dollars. And so we want to hear from them on what they want to see with their tax dollars for the next 10 years, and when we did it in 2004 and we did it again in 2014, trails and connectivity were the top sort of requests back then, and we're doing a lot to try and meet that request of those desires. And so this would be my first time as superintendent leading such a large initiative when we talk about planning for the next 10 years. So excited, a little anxious, big responsibility, but we have a lot of things. We're going to do an assessment of all of our inventory. We're going to talk about trends that are happening all across the country. And more importantly than anything, we're going to go and have a lot of community meetings and stakeholder meetings, meetings with employees to get input about what we want to look like 10 years from now.
What do you anticipate, of the biggest of those things? Are there any, monster projects that will come forth?
Well, there are a couple of things, in 2004, when we did the Imagine Your Parks tax, and again in 2014, a lot of our focus was on improving our parks. And so we have all these community parks as a result of that, whether you're talking about the Perkins Road Extreme Park or Highland Road or North Sherwood Forest, Anna T. Jordan. Those are a lot of our community parks that we were able to enhance, but we didn't focus too much on facilities such as recreation centers. So that's become more of a need. We have a lot of recreation centers, but a lot of them were built in the 60s and 70s. And so we need modern recreation centers all across the parish. And so that's something that I'm anticipating may come out as a result of this. We're hoping that we're able to continue the great work at the zoo. We know we're going to need some public support to do that. And so potentially a phase 2 at the zoo where we're able to bring gorillas and lions and stuff that we've never had at the zoo before. That will be exciting. There's also potential to possibly renovate Memorial Stadium with the potential renewal of our taxes. And so the plan is going to lay all that out for us. And once we have the plan, then we'll be asking the voters to help us achieve that by renewing our taxes.
You got Team Sportsplex, for example, which is kind of unique to the BREC system. Is there any chance for either taking some of the existing facilities and expanding them into something like that, or any more facilities like that around the parish?
Yeah, they're actually, we're working on a couple of those now, and it's actually a dual purpose type facility where a city parish approached us as a result of some money they received from FEMA, hazard mitigation money, for us to build two state-of-the-art recreation centers at Memorial, on the Memorial property, as well as at Airline Highway, State Fairgrounds property. And so both of those facilities will have at a minimum 3 basketball courts. I know the Memorial project will have indoor running track on the second floor. So though we're excited about those, and the way I hadn't talked about why we get hazard mitigation dollars for that, but those facilities will, while they'll serve as recreation centers 99% of the time, when we do have disasters and emergencies, they also will serve as a place where emergency personnel can gather to coordinate and make sure they're taking care of the surrounding communities. And so it have hurricane resistant walls, all the technology to make sure that they're able to stay online and operate during those times. So
no, that's good. All right, so I'll get you out of here on this. Your favorite subject, or at least mine, lakes.
yes. Actually had a meeting with DOTD yesterday as they were talking about the I-10 widening project, and that spilled over a little bit and talking about the lakes as well. So
Figuratively and literally, you know.
yes,
Yeah.
spilled over. And so as soon as I hang up with you, I'll be following up with the project manager over there. We had a call in December that said that dredging of City Park Lake would start in January or February. And so I need to follow up on that because the DOTD is scheduled to start their project right over the lakes in April. And so we'd like to get in and get out before DOTD gets there. And so that work is scheduled to start any minute. And part of my call is when does it start? And so, you know, City Park Lake will be dredged first, and all of the other, I think we have 4 other lakes that'll be dredged before the end of the year. And so we're excited about restoring the lakes and making the water deeper, which will make it healthier for fish, which will also provide a lot of recreational opportunities in terms of fishing and kayaking and all those sort of things. And again, the spoils from that dredging will help to build out the shorelines around the lake and ultimately have safer walking and biking paths to traverse around the lake.
Can't wait. I think it's going to be a wonderful thing for our community.
Yes.
Just keep this in the back of your mind. Swimming pools.
Okay.
Swimming pools. All right. He's Corey Wilson from BREC. When we get back, Jim Kleinpeter, who covers LSU women's basketball for The Advocate. Corey, thanks, man. It's always fun to catch up.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it, Lee.
All right. We'll be right back.
Congratulations, East Baton Rouge. You did it. You topped every big city in the country. You envisioned an ambitious reinvention of our park system. And we, as a community, embarked on a multi-year effort to reimagine our parks and facilities. And all that work didn't go unnoticed. You imagined, we delivered. Gold. BREC, your #1 park system in the nation.
All right, we're back on Sports 225. And as I referenced earlier, the phenomena that is LSU women's basketball. And since I've lived in Louisiana over the course of the last almost 40 years, I've seen things come and go. And Louisiana Tech women's basketball, for example, in the 1980s, the Baton Rouge Kingfish hockey team. And for a long time, LSU women's basketball. And that was, you know, attendance-wise, excitement-wise, been pretty dormant for quite a while. And now it's a thing. Jim Kleinpeter covers LSU women's basketball for The Advocate. And hi, Jim.
Hey, Lee. Good to see you.
Been an eventful season for those Lady Tigers, huh?
Yeah, I was out of town when Kim got the job, and I thought, oh boy, I've got to up my game. Like I knew what it was going to be like. I didn't know, I couldn't, predict exactly how it was going to happen. That first year was something else. She really made a difference. But now she's got players, and she's showing what she can do. And wait till next year. You think they're good this year?
Really, that much talent coming in?
Yes, and they got some staying around. I mean, they're going to lose. They lose Alexis Morris and Jasmine Carson, and then. But I think the kids they have coming in are going to just make up for that, and they're going to have to, supplement and piece it together again, but not nearly as much.
So you grew up in Baton Rouge. You worked for the New Orleans Times-Picayune for the longest time. You've had various other media jobs, over the last, 10 years or so. And this is a phenomenon, though, that you might not have predicted. Like if I had said to you 20 years ago, Jim, you'll be doing this and covering an LSU women's basketball game in a sold out Pete Maravich Assembly Center, you might have said, I don't know about that.
I didn't cover a lot of women's basketball. I did, I was in on almost close to the ground floor because I worked as a sports information assistant around the time Jinx Coleman was the coach, and the very, very early days. I was in school when Marie Benny Jackson and Julie Gross were playing in the finals of the AIAW, and so I kind of have tracked it. In fact, both of my sisters played on the model team, the club team that they used to get the thing started back in 72 or 73. So, I've been around women's basketball for a long time, since I was a kid and going to their games in elementary school. So this is something else. This is something where, the planets aligned, Kim Mulkey, who really feels strongly about being a citizen of the state of Louisiana, came back to coach LSU. And I remember in college, when there was, they were miffed that she didn't go to LSU, but Tech was the place for her to go, and that's why she's the player she was and the coach she is now.
It's funny. I told her this when she did the show last year. I actually interviewed for my job at the Advocate during the 1984 Los Angeles Summer Olympics, and I was staying at the Capitol House downtown, which is now the Hilton property, and was closed for a long time. And I watched, the little pigtailed point guard and the USA women in those Olympics. Little did I know, how. And then I interviewed her at Tech a few times as when she was an assistant coach there, and of course, she moved on to Baylor. She's an interesting coach, the way she approaches a lot of things.
I covered her senior year. I was in Monroe, and that was part of my beat, was Louisiana Tech sports.
Wait, I forgot that. I forget you worked at the Monroe newspaper? That's
right, I did. A lot of people have come, a lot of great names have come through there. Not mine, but a lot of other great names. So, I worked there for a year and covered Kim, and she was you could see the way she played the game that she was destined to be a coach, because that's what she was on the floor. You just couldn't be very impressed with her. But I saw them beat that USC team with Cheryl Miller and the McGee twins. I think, I saw Kim play many times, and you always thought, I can't see her not being a coach. And she learned from some really good people, and she was already in the spotlight. She was already the type of person, when you talk to her, you knew she's been interviewed so many times, and she's so comfortable in the spotlight that it's never going to, that part of it is never going to be a problem.
All right, hold that thought. He's Jim Kleinpeter. That's easy for me to say. He's Jim Kleinpeter, and he covers LSU women's basketball for the Advocate. I'm Lee Feinsfog. It's Sports 225.
Congratulations, East Baton Rouge. You did it. You topped every big city in the country. You envisioned an ambitious reinvention of our park system. And we, as a community, embarked on a multi-year effort to reimagine our parks and facilities. And all that work didn't go unnoticed. You imagined, we delivered. Gold. BREC, your #1 park system in the nation.
Coming down the home stretch of another Sports 225. Earlier, we visited with Corey Wilson, the BREC superintendent. Great stuff. Go to sports225.com. You can see when all the show listings are for where you're watching here on your view. If you miss those segments, you want to catch up. Right now, we're finishing up with Jim Kleinpeter, who covers LSU women's basketball for the Times-Picayune. Whoa, see that Freudian slip right there? Because I was thinking of my next thing. He works for the Baton Rouge Advocate, but we knew each other first when he worked for the Times-Picayune. And I always tell the funniest story is the time you and I were in Michigan, and we hung out with Dale Brown, who gave us every hint. We were both covering LSU basketball on a trip. He gave us every hint that he was going to retire, and neither one of us picked up on it. We were like such dopes. And then like a week later, he announced his retirement. Remember that?
I remember that trip. Yeah. Auburn Palace.
Yeah. You've had a lot of beats. Where does this compare? Covering LSU women's basketball, because I got to think this is kind of fun.
I'm telling you, I'm having a blast. You know, when the Times-Picayune went to their digital format in 2012, that job got twice as hard because you were having to work it 24 hours a day. I would go to bed at 11 o'clock sometimes, and my phone would ding, and some LSU player had done something or tweeted something, and I had to get out of bed and go write something and put it up. And I don't do that anymore. Okay, let's just say that being a freelance writer is sometimes it's so wonderful. You know, you show up, you write your story, and you walk away. And it's more than that, really. I mean, the Advocate has been very, very good to me, and I have to say thank you to them every time somebody asks me about it, because they give me pretty much free reign to set my budget and to say what stories need to be written. And, you know, I guess I get paid by the story, and wow, it's great. Sometimes they send me on the road. If LSU had beaten Ohio State last year, I would have gone to Spokane and covered them in the regional, in that Sweet 16 game. But so yeah, they've been very, very good to me. Cover Southern, and it's been really wonderful. And I started out as a freelancer for the Advocate in college, covering prep games for the old prepper, Ted Castillo. So I've come full circle.
Isn't that funny?
Yeah.
Let's finish up with just this LSU women's basketball team. Still South Carolina to come in the SEC, and that's the benchmark. But how good and how far can the LSU basketball team go?
Well, I've been saying this recently, and I think the other night you saw they got exposed a little bit against Tennessee. If a team can get on the boards with them, they can beat LSU. And Tennessee actually out-rebounded LSU in the first half, and you saw they stayed in the game. They both shot. LSU played a little better defense. LSU has a little bit better athletes on the floor. They're starting five. So I think this team is a Sweet 16 team. And with a lucky break, they can make the Final Four. Don't think they can win the national championship. I think there's probably 3 or 4 teams better than them. I don't think they'll win at South Carolina. They'll make a good account of themselves. South Carolina is just a seasoned team. I think next year LSU has a Final Four team. They can make the Final Four, and if you make the Final Four, you can win it. That's the way I've always felt. Unless there's just a powerhouse team that's head and shoulders above. So that's kind of how I see this going. But they're going to be so much better next year. They're going to have players. They're going to have 5 players that can score and create their own shots and just do things that this year's team can't.
That's kind of amazing, you know, when you think about a team that's ranked as highly as this and playing so well. And that's a couple of times where you've said they're going to be that much better. Well, going back to the days when I used to just enjoy so much our time with Sue Gunner, you know, and they had that run there with the Final Four teams, the Simone Augustus and the other great players that were there. You know, this is fun because the community that follows LSU women's basketball, that's really fervent about it. It's really important to them, and I'm glad for them.
Yeah, it was a dormant base, and we all know why things happen, you know, and they had to make a move, and the program just kind of it lacked interest from the coach. But Kim has really created a resurgence, and those people are coming back.
All right, he's Jim Kleinpeter. Jim, thanks for finishing up with us here on Sports 225. Great to see you.
My pleasure, Lee. Always happy to be on your show.
And thanks for watching Sports 225.
At carnival time by Baton Rouge Bay, that's the site of my story. At Spanish Town Mardi Gras, things can get blurry.